Now I have things on my screen, but that's okay. Oh,
I
it's
think
10 seconds till. Are we on? Are we live? Are we
I
going?
think we are live. Let me check.
Oh, okay.
We let people in.
I mean, might as well. Otherwise, it'd be super awkward. Just kind of be like a normal Zoom call, just the two of us just talking to each other.
Who should we talk about today?
Who should we talk about today? Who should we talk about today? Let's make sure we record it and we put it out on the World Wide Web.
Right,
And then
right.
let's tag that person in it so they can know that we're talking about them too.
I agree. Hold on just a second. I'm not seeing us actually. Oh no, we are live. Okay. Yeah, yeah. I
Okay.
can see you doing this. Like
I
you're,
just
you know.
I want to let you guys in on a little secret. We've been keeping this to ourselves for I don't know, a while, and I feel inauthentic by not sharing it. So we're all friends now, so I'll go ahead and tell you. We are not professionals when it comes to doing live Zooms and online trainings like this. So I know, shocking, but we're actually not professionals. We're still practicing. We're still amateur status here. Um,
I mean, I don't
someday,
think it's obvious though. I don't think it's that
no. Well,
obvious.
that's why I brought it up. That's why I brought it up is because for most people it's not obvious. Do you have the start webinar button still sitting up there? Does that matter?
Let's see. I'm gonna do it.
Okay. All right. Well, let's get rocking and rolling. Happy Wednesday morning, everybody. I'm glad y'all are here. We over the last month or so, we've been talking about just a lot of different conversation frameworks. Um, we've been talking about questions to ask ourselves. We've been talking about questions to ask our clients, trying to take away friction, helping to add clarity into people's moving situations, whether buyers or sellers. And I had one last model really that I wanted just to walk through with everybody, and then I've got a new topic lined up. In fact, as we wrap up this kind of segment we've been going through this summer on questions and whatnot, I got some content lined up starting next week specifically around AI. We're actually going to start with a little bit of a tool on how AI ready are you, kind of like how AI competent are you. So as we wrap up this segment on using language that creates urgency, which might be a two-parter. We'll see how it goes today. We're going to move into some AI content. So in fact, let's say that I'm going to get all this done today so we can start on AI next week. And we're going to talk about this last model is just what I'll just call as the move model, about creating urgency with our clients. And just so we're clear from the very beginning, um, people stay still because it feels safe. Sometimes waiting just feels like the safe choice to make. And ultimately, it's that uncertainty that causes people to stay still and it delays commitment. I just want to say it from the very beginning is this is not about putting pressure on anybody. Fully, we can't talk anybody into doing something they don't want to do. On top of that, we are real estate professionals. We are counselors. We are guides. We have a fiduciary responsibility. We have morals and we have ethics that we would not try to talk someone into doing something that would not be in their best interest. So just saying that right up front is that's why this slide is super important to me is that this is not about manufacturing pressure. This is not about creating fear. This is not forcing them into a decision. And this is not putting your interest ahead of your client's interest. Okay. But as we're creating urgency from from the client's perspective, we're helping them create perspective. We're helping them see various trade-offs in the decisions that are laid out in front of them. And we're always inviting them to take a next step in a direction that will serve whatever their goals are. Okay. So this is not about manufactured pressure. This is about client-centered urgency. And because I love acronyms, this just makes it super easy as one last way to think about these conversation frameworks. And I'm just going to use this move model today. And it says move turns hesitation into a useful conversation. So quite simply, the M is for meaning, the O is for obstacles, the V is for value, and then the E is making it easy for them to take a next step. Okay. And if you've been paying attention, and I don't blame you if you don't pick up on this, but at the bottom of the screen, you've got this 5-step decision-making process too. This has been inlaid in all the content that we've been sharing over the last month or more now. Is perspective leads to clarity, clarity leads to confidence, confidence leads to better decision, and lastly, that leads to better results. Okay. So let's hop in on the M here. So meaning. Meaning gives a decision emotional relevance. So really what I'm saying here is before discussing timing, let's discover what the move is really meant to change. And again, this can apply to both buyers and sellers. But we are still in the discovery phase. Before we hop in and we start talking about all the great ways that we can help them, before we start giving our perspective on what's going on with the market and giving a forecast on what's going to be happening down the road, before we start talking about our great marketing plan and our open house routine and some off-market listings that we have coming up and all of that, we need to stop and slow down and ask great questions to discover what making a move is, why that's really a relevant change to them. And it gets one question on this page is if this move happened, what would become better for you or your family? And then sit back and just listen to what they have to share. And as they do, ask a follow-up question behind it to get even more clarity around what impact this would have on their family. And you might want to just write these down, guys. If you're note takers, this would be a good one to write down or at least get a screenshot of. These are some other questions that uncover that meaning. So why is this move important right now? Like you're thinking about doing this in late August, early September. What's important about this timing? What would make the right home or sale? What would make it possible? If the right house came on the market, what would make it possible for you to make a move? Let's find out who else is involved in the decision-making process. Not only that, but who else will be impacted by that decision, right? This could be as simple as we just had clients where their house goes on the market Thursday, tomorrow. Older couple, in their 80s, health is not what it used to be. They find it's going to be more important now to live closer to family. So their decision was to move from El Dorado Hills to Tennessee. So who else is being affected by this decision? Their daughter, son-in-law, that are going to be out there to take greater care of them and to be closer to get them to doctor's appointments and all of that. And I love this last question. This has come up. I've had this in here for the last several weeks in a row. And this is a super powerful one, that if nothing changed, how would that feel? If you decided to delay moving to be closer to family, how would that feel? If you decide to stay in this house one more year that's way too big for you, how would that feel? If you stayed renting this home and paying your landlord's mortgage every month and not building up your own equity and having your own sense of ownership, how would that feel? And it's called future pacing. You put them into a future state on if we were a year from now, we're still having the same conversation, you're still in the same spot. How would that impact you? How would you feel? So getting below the surface. And I, I would say this is that if any of these questions feel uncomfortable to you, get over it with practice and care and role play so that when you are sitting across the table from a client, that these can come out directly in your own words, directly in your own inflection, and most importantly, directly from your heart, because you really are getting underneath the surface to what will make them in reality move. Okay. Number two is obstacle. So obstacles separate a real concern from a vague delay. It's all too often that people will give us some sort of an objection or some sort of, well, it just says it here, a vague. They're not specific about what is causing them to stay stuck. And what I'm not saying here is fight them. What I'm not saying here is don't argue with them, but we need to change that into a diagnosis. So if somebody says we just need to wait, totally get it. As you remember, kind of last week, we talked about affirm what they said. Man, I can totally understand your concern. I have a lot of clients that are talking about waiting, however you want to say it, but I totally get it. Just I have a question though for you is what would have to be true so that you would feel ready? Well, Scott, we need the monthly payment to be less expensive. The house that we're looking for, we kind of run the numbers and at that we just can't afford the payment. All right, well, I can totally appreciate that. I've heard that before. At what rate or price would that change? Now, I'll pause for a second. I think the consumer a lot of times is conditioned to think about or talk about interest rate. We all know that at the end of the day, they're really talking about a monthly payment. So just as a refresh here is that whenever the conversation shifts to rate, you got to reframe it around what the monthly cost is going to be to be in that house. Because, and I know we serve clients in all different price points in different parts of the country and different things, but there are so many other variables that go into a monthly payment besides just the rate, right? Depending on where you are, the property tax rate is different if there are things like bonds and Melleroos built into the property tax bill. Insurance, the cost of monthly insurance or annual insurance varies greatly from spot to spot. The utility cost. Does the home have owned solar, in which case you're saving a couple $100 a month, or is there no solar, or is there a payment on the solar on there? So let's get below the surface there and find out really what the payment would need to be. And then we can move on to the decision. Is if I could find you a home today that would match that payment you're looking for, would you be ready to move forward? Because the waiting test replaces the someday. So again, name the condition, see where their threshold is. This makes them get a little bit more specific, and then test the decision. So I understand that you want to wait. Totally get it. Your concern is that what your rate's going to be. But let me ask you, at what payment would it make sense? Great. If I could find you a home that would match that payment, would you be ready to make a decision? Well, yeah, Scott, if you could find one that makes where that payment makes sense, then I'm in. Okay. Well, let's see how realistic that is. I don't know. Like you guys know your market, you guys know your clients. They may throw out a number that is completely unrealistic. That type of the type of home that they have in their head and that payment, they may be off by a factor of 50% or something. I don't know. And if you get yourself to that spot, then the next step is, well, you said that you're comfortable with a $3,000 a month payment. Let's just play this out for a second. You're saying that your monthly budget, that you feel comfortable at $3,000 a month. How'd you come to that number? Well, that's just what feels comfortable. That's what I'm paying now. Okay. So now they're going back to kind of that vague language again. Okay, great. So you're comfortable paying $3,000 now. What if it were 3,500? Could you do that? Oh, I don't know. Gosh, that seems uncomfortable. Okay, well, let me ask you, Laura, because we're here together. What would have to happen such that $3,500 a month feels comfortable? Is there anything else in your personal budget, your personal spending that you'd be willing to give up in order to get into this house?
You want me to
Okay,
really
great.
answer?
Okay, great. What if it was 3750? If at 3750 you could have that fourth bedroom, or you could have that shorter commute, or you could have that thing. Is there anything else that you could trim in your monthly spending that would allow you to get into that space? Great. So if I could find you a home that would be that $3,500, $3,700 a month payment that would get you what you needed, would you be willing to work for it now? Yes. Or the answer is no. Okay, super. So let's just say that we're here a year from now and we're still in this same spot. How does that feel? Ah, man, that sounds terrible. I don't want to pay rent one more year. I definitely don't want to pay rent 2 more years. Okay, cool. Well, here's the good news, Laura. 1 year from now, I'll still be selling houses. So I'll tell you what, why don't we start today on getting the plan in place so that over the next year you can save up the money, you can cut out some of your spending, you can consolidate some of your debt, you can pay off some of your student loans or credit cards, whatever it happens to be. And even though it's still an out there in the future client for you, if you can help connect the dots today and start the planning process today, we all know how fast a year goes by. And sure enough, along the way, maybe they get a raise and all of a sudden their budget jumps up. Maybe interest rates fall to a level where that payment becomes realistic. But if we can start putting them on a plan for a future move, now we're part of that team. Because all too often, and if I had a mirror right now, I'd be looking into it. We are really good about picking the low-hanging fruit. The people that are ready to make a decision today and go list their home today or go get pre-approved today. But how great are we at following up with those people that are 6 months down the road or 9 months down the road or 12 months down the road? And for us, grizzled veterans in the room today, how many times have you gone on an appointment now, a year ago? Somehow along the way, you lost touch with that person. And then you open up your social media feed and you find another realtor handing them keys to their new home. Right. So let's get in there. Let's uncover the obstacle. Let's not let them be vague about what that obstacle is. Let's give that condition a name. Let's set the threshold. Let's test a decision to see if we can get them to move forward. And then the V is value. So value makes the trade-offs of acting and waiting visible, right? We're bringing this right to their eyes. Now we're starting to give them some examples. So this could, like I talked about a second, this could be financial. This could be about what their monthly payment's going to be. If they're a seller, it's going to be what they walk away with. It could also be their cost of waiting. If the home is sitting there vacant and it's costing them money every month to own it, or it's a rental property that's a negative cash flow. So really getting in on some of the financial framework that takes place in a decision-making process. And then we can start talking about the market. It's only at this part where we start talking about, if you're a seller right now, if you're going to have your home on the market, what would cause it to sell? Who are the other homes in the neighborhood that we would be competing with? Which of your neighbors recently have had success in getting their home sold? What was their strategy? How do they price those homes? How do we stack up? If we were on the market the same time they were, would somebody have chosen your home or that one first? Right? On the lifestyle piece, this could be both buyers and sellers. Sometimes people are selling because they're looking for a better lifestyle someplace else. But clearly our buyers are doing that too because they're looking for a bigger home. They're looking for a shorter commute. they've got kids that have gone on, moved on from preschool and now they're starting elementary school and they want the right school district to be in. And then lastly, we're going to kind of get get a gauge on where they are emotionally. What's their stress level? What's causing their uncertainty? What kind of relief would it give them if they would make a decision and get into this next stage of life, wherever that happens to be? Okay. And then you do the math. So if you act, so this is kind of like, I kind of think about it this way. You have a blank piece of paper and you draw a line down the middle. It's kind of that pros and cons exercise. So if you acted, if you actually move forward, what would happen? What becomes possible? What risks are we reducing by doing that? And which of your opportunities are we protecting? Versus if we wait, how long are you willing to let this continue? If you stay here longer, what could become harder? Right? This kind of goes to my example with my clients that just moved to Tennessee, is the house was just too much. It was too much to maintain. Um, their health was they're none of us, but they're just not getting any younger. They needed care. And the longer they waited, the harder their life was going to be. And where they are now is just, frankly, it's just more comfortable. In their case, it was super clear. What would be the cost of waiting another 6 or 12 months? I don't know, but I can tell you they're in better hands now than being here on an island, just the two of them. And I added this line at the bottom because this is again a wake-up call for me and a reminder to myself is the goal is not to predict the market. I think we get ourselves in really big trouble when we prognosticate, although I still do it all the time because when people say, Scott, what's your opinion? I love to share it. But the goal is not to predict the market. The goal is to compare the client's choices. I say this all the time. Clients will ask, when is the best time to sell? Right? I'm sure you guys hear that. When is the best time to sell? I've heard that the spring is the best time to sell. I've heard the summer is the best time to sell. I hear the winter is the worst time to sell. And when that comes up, when I'm at my best, what I say is some version of in different seasons of the year, the market acts differently. But honestly, Laura, the best time to sell your home is the time that's best for you. And I mean it. I mean, sure, there we can all say like, putting your house on the market on December 15th, there are some problems with that in most of our markets. Weather's not as good. It's rainy, snowy, gloomy outside. People are all bundled up. They got their trees out and the fancy lights, and they're buying gifts and they're going out to cocktail parties and all those different things. So December is a terrible time to sell, unless it's not, because you have a job waiting for you someplace else, because you've got another opportunity that's greater than what the holding on to this house 1 more month, 2 more months, 3 more months. Because by moving on now, it solves a problem that's much bigger of a hurdle than what you're presently experiencing. So when's the best time to sell? The time that's best for you, Mr. and Mrs. Client. When's the best time to buy? Again, same thing. It's never the wrong time to buy the right piece of real estate. So if the right home comes on the market, it doesn't matter if it's in May or June or December. Best time to buy a house is when you find the best house. Okay. Sorry, got off on a tangent there, but hopefully that's a helpful dialogue. And then lastly is E, making it easy. So an easy next step lowers the emotional cost of movement. You guys probably can relate to this, that people resist big commitments. They're more willing to take small steps that create useful information, useful momentum, useful progress. So what are those small steps? I don't, Mr. and Mrs. Client, I don't know if moving right now is the right choice for you. But what I can promise you is if we sit down and have a conversation, I can help add some clarity to it. Are you willing to sit down and at least talk? Okay, great. So now we're talking and we're laying out the plan, and there's still some apprehension about doing things now. Okay, great. Well, at least in our conversation today, here's what I can promise you, Laura. You will feel more prepared with what would have to take place so that when the time is right, you can actually move forward at that time and not be waiting again. See, by meeting with me, we're going to add some clarity to what's going on, and then you'll have the information that you need so that when the time is right, you'll be ready to make a decision. And again, whether you decide to move forward now or it's 12 months down the road, the good news is I'll still be here 12 months down the road. Right? So let's just take a small commitment. But first now, let's just sit down and talk. Great. We're talking. I'll tell you what, now that we're here, let's put this, what would have to happen? Let's get you prepared for what a move would look like. Laura, in order for you to feel comfortable, what information would you need in order to feel prepared? Great. Let me provide you that information. Based upon the information I've provided, does now feel like the right time to move forward? No? Okay, great. What's still unclear about it? Okay, I totally understand where you're coming from. If I could add some clarity to that obstacle you just gave me, wouldn't then be a good time for you to move forward? No, still not ready? Okay, great. What would have to happen such that you would? Okay, totally understand. Well, let's do this. Let's get that plan in place with the information you need so that when that deadline comes up, 6 months down the road, 12 months down the road, once you've saved up the money, restored your credit, paid down your debt, gotten the job transfer, gotten the raise, gotten the promotion, whatever. But now, once you've gotten all those things, you'll already be 2, 3, 5 steps ahead. So this house won't be holding you back. This lease you're in right now won't be holding you back. Okay. I'm going to hit 2 more slides and then we'll get out of here. So we're going to do this on the seller side and then we're going to do this on the buyer side. So turning buyer dialogue in from waiting into a plan. So here's that framework. Take a screenshot of this one, perhaps. But what would buying make possible that renting does not? Yep, got it. I hear that. I've heard that before. So let me ask you, what specifically would need to change for you to feel ready? Okay, noted. Well, would it be helpful to compare today's payment with what that cost of waiting would look like? Great. Would the next best step be for me to connect you with my loan officer, with my credit repair person? You have 2 hours to invest or an hour to invest in talking with them. Okay. And then on the seller side, similar. What would a successful sale allow you to do next? If you sold your house, what would that do for you? Wow, that sounds awesome. What is the biggest concern right now that's keeping you from moving forward then? Yep, totally get that. So let me ask you, what would another 6 months of waiting cost you? Or how would that complicate your life to wait 6 more months, 12 more months, whatever it happens to be? Yep, I can appreciate that. Well, let me ask you, would a walkthrough and a pricing review give you some clarity on what you need? simple frameworks. So I hope that's helpful. Laura, what we'll do is I'll give you this slide deck because I don't always share things with you because I'm pretty selfish, being an only child and whatnot. But I skipped over a couple of the slides that are in here. I had said this last week, guys. If you want a copy of this, just shoot me a text message. Here's the number. Here's the phone number again. It's 916-799-1662. And Laura will put it in the chat probably because I see her fingers moving.
And
But 916-799-1662. If you'd like the slide deck, I'll download it in a format that's not in Keynote. And It will get it over to you just so you have this as a reference if you weren't keeping up with notes today, if you're driving in the car. So if you want a copy of this, just shoot me a text and I'll text it back to you. In fact, I'll ask you for your email address in that text message and I'll email it to you later on today. But hopefully that's helpful. Hopefully that gives you guys this last little piece of the puzzle on getting people into movement. Like I said, next week we're going to move into a conversation around AI, and we'll probably stay on that trend for a little bit. I've been making some progress, so it's pretty cool stuff. So that's what I got for today. Laura, I'm going to ask you to do me a favor because
what?
I don't have buttons that I can do it. Will you be so kind as to end this call and hit like hang up and whatever and all those things?